Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us for a Tax Practitioners Board webinar. My name is Ashley Dowsard, and I'm joining you from Ngunnawal and Ngambri country. I respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of country throughout Australia and their continuing connection to land, waters, and community. I'd like to pay my respect to them and their cultures and elders, past and present. To begin, I have a few housekeeping messages. First, to obtain a copy of today's slides, you can visit our webinar resources hub at tpb.gov.au/webinar-hub. We'll also email you a copy. Today's webinar counts towards your continuing professional education or CPE, and you can claim 1 hour for attending. In relation to claiming your CPE, we'll issue an attendance certificate to those staying on for the duration of the webinar. During today's presentation, we'll unpack how a stressful work environment can impact your mental health, what proactive steps we can implement to take care of ourselves and others, techniques and strategies to protect our mental health and well-being, the NewAccess for Small Business Owners program, or NASBO. We'll also hear directly from a small business owner who's taken part in the program. They'll share their own personal experience of struggle and recovery. To finish today's webinar, we'll answer some of the common questions we receive. To find the Q&A, simply hover your mouse over the screen and a range of icons will appear at the bottom of your screen. You can also use the chat function to speak with other participants. Please note we won't be monitoring the chat closely throughout the presentation. To disable any of these functions, simply hover over the relevant icon and unselect Show Preview. Also, please remember to keep your comments courteous and professional. I'd now like to introduce our speakers for today. We're privileged to have Tim Hoopman, Beyond Blue speaker, small business owner and small business advisor, and David McLeish, a NASBO participant, small business owner and registered agent, tax agent. Thank you both for joining us. Tim, I'll hand over to you to get us started.
Great. Thank you very much, Ashley, for that kind introduction. And as Ashley said, my name is Tim Hoopman, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here today. I'm a Beyond Blue speaker, and I have been for nearly 8 years now. And I've also previously presented to the TPB members. You're one of our favourite groups to meet with and to present to. So thank you for allowing us to present to you again. Tax practitioners are currently working in an environment where there is constant change. This change includes new reform, regulations, and obligations, and the feeling of being under intense scrutiny. Working in this kind of environment can lead to feelings of extreme stress, overwhelm, and fatigue. It can lead to feelings of extreme burnout. I really love the image on the slide that you can see now, and think it captures how many of us feel about when we are feeling burnt out. Things seem out of reach. We don't know what direction to take. It can be frightening as we don't know, as we don't want to fall and we don't want to fail. We feel like we must keep going even though we are worn out. And when we look forward to the horizon, all we can see is more challenge coming. It never seems to end. It is so important during times like these, when so many things seem to be out of control, that we take care of ourselves and focus on what we can control. Today's session is a very important opportunity for us to take a break, put our well-being first, and learn some strategies to help us practice self-care and overcome burnout. Last week was Are You OK Day? And next month is Mental Health Month. This is a perfect time to focus on mental health. Everyone attending today is committing to a talk on mental health. So this is the perfect time for us to shine a spotlight on mental health and put ourselves first. As small business owners, we're used to everything being a priority. But today, right now, I want you to really focus on yourself and get as much as you can out of this session, because the most important thing within your business is you. Next slide, please. I think it's important to acknowledge something before we go on. Your industry is facing tremendous pressures and stresses. I did a quick Google search before this presentation and typed tax practitioners burnout. Put that into Google, and these are some of the pages on the articles and the topics that came up. So here are just a few. They're of quite concern, as so many tax practitioners are feeling this way. This is indicative that there is pressing industry issues are affecting many of you. Please know that you're not alone, and many of the stresses you experience are outside of your control. At Beyond Blue, we consistently hear that small business owners are struggling. In some cases, small business owners have been struggling for such a long time, they have forgotten what it feels like not to. They feel burnt out, fatigued, and overwhelmed. For those of you here today who are listening and thinking, yes, that's me, I feel exactly like that, I'm really glad that you are here. I want you to know that it doesn't have to be like this. With help, those feelings of being burnt out, overwhelmed, and fatigued can actually be overcome. The next slide, please. Next slide, please. Oh, great, thanks. The mental health continuum. I love this slide. I think it's a really great summary of our mental health. I wanted to touch quickly on mental health itself because it is a complex thing and often difficult to describe. This slide really does help to paint a picture of what mental health is. This slide shows the mental health continuum, which some of you may have seen before. The color rainbow makes it easier to show how our mental health can change, and it is not static. I think that's a really important point. Our mental health is not static, it does change. You will notice how on the green end of the continuum, mental health is flourishing. On the other red end, mental health is in crisis. Every one of us will experience changes in our mental health at some point. Sometimes this could happen in one day. You can receive bad news, suffer an illness, have a relationship end, or experience conflict with another person. All these events and so many more can have a dramatic impact on our mood and change the way we feel. It is possible to move both up and down this continuum, depending on what is happening in our lives at any given time. There is strong research to show that this is completely normal, and it would be strange to be continually in a state of flourishing, for example. Problems arise, however, when we find ourselves in the at-risk and struggling section of the continuum for 2 weeks or more. If we ever find ourselves in this position, it's important to get help, as this indicates that there is a need for mental health support. This might be useful when you're considering the clients that you're working with. Maybe they cannot 100% describe how they feel, but they do know that they have been struggling to meet deadlines or have felt a strong desire to isolate and withdraw away from others, again for 2 weeks or more. If this is the case, this would indicate the mental health support would be advisable and recommended. Thank you. Next slide, please. Let's talk a little bit about small business stresses. Many of you here today are small business owners and will understand that prioritizing self-care is hard, especially when you're responsible for everything. We know that small business owners are exposed to a tremendous number of stresses, more than the general population. These stresses can range from no work-life balance, financial distress, cash flow issues, to dealing with complaints, paying tax, losing staff, and feeling completely exhausted. I would like everyone here today to have a look at this slide and ask yourself, how many of these stresses are relevant to me right now? And then ask yourself, am I getting help or support with the stresses I'm experiencing? If the answer is no, I would encourage you to think about talking to someone. Sharing with someone else and asking for help can be incredibly beneficial. Just because you're a small business owner doesn't mean that you must deal with all these stresses on your own. You are not alone, and sharing with someone else can help to find a solution. Next slide, please. Now, let's talk about 5 strategies for small business owner wellbeing. They're 5 great, quick strategies. They are good and they work, and I actually use them myself very regularly. However, before I go into them, I want to remind you of these very important lifestyle activities: physical exercise, eating well, getting enough sleep, and social connection. These are the pillars of your mental health. Research shows that by practicing these regularly, you can better manage stress and reduce the symptoms of depression. I'll say the 4 again: physical exercise, eating well, getting enough sleep, and social connection. Let's go to the first tip, please. Next slide, thanks. Pause and breathe. It is essential to remember the simple yet profound practice of pausing, breathing, and giving ourselves a moment. Slowing down isn't just a luxury, it is a necessity for our mental well-being. The importance of slowing down cannot be overstated. When we pause and breathe, we activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which promotes relaxation and counteracts the stress response. This simple act can lower our heart rate, reduce anxiety, and enhance our overall sense of calm. It's a way of telling our body and mind that it's okay to rest and recharge. This practice helps us stay grounded, focused, and way more present in our daily lives. The practice of pausing, breathing, is backed by science. According to Dr. Herbert Benson, a pioneer in mind-body medicine, the relaxation response triggered by deep breathing can counteract the harmful effects of stress. He emphasizes that simple breathing exercises can lead to significant improvement in overall health, reducing the risk of stress-related illnesses. For myself, and in times of heightened stress, I have stopped, walked away, and stood quietly taking big, deep breaths. It is incredibly powerful exercise as it allows me to calm down and then face the situation again in a much more measured and calm way. Please try it sometimes. Sometimes we don't think that it's easy, but it is. Pause and breathe. Remember, when you are taking a moment to pause, breathe, and slow down, it's not a sign of weakness. It's actually a powerful act of self-care. By making this a regular practice, you can protect your mental well-being and prevent burnout. Please try it sometime. Next slide, please. Check your thinking. The second strategy is to not believe everything you think. Much easier said than done. We have over 60,000 thoughts a day, and we generally believe them automatically. When we're feeling stressed or low or anxious, Our thinking tends to focus very narrowly on threats and become quite negative. We internalize those thoughts and it affects our mood. When we understand we have all these negative thoughts, we can actually try to reframe our thinking. So ask yourself, does this situation or event in my life justify my thinking? Or are my thoughts based on negative assumptions? And what is a more balanced and helpful thought for this situation or event? The negative thoughts will not necessarily disappear. However, by challenging these thoughts, we can find a better balance in our thinking. So just remember that we have 60,000 thoughts a day, and a lot of those can become quite negative quite quickly. So again, perhaps when you're pausing and breathing, you can think about those thoughts and do they justify your thinking? And what's perhaps a more balanced and helpful way of thinking through that situation? Next slide, please. Small amounts of pleasure. Pace. This is really a really great tip. The third tip comes out from our Beyond Blue community based on a project we recently conducted about how people with mental health conditions can stay well and on top of their mental health. We learned that looking after our mental health is about collecting small moments of pleasure and purpose. Let's talk about the pause. The P is for pause. These are the actions that help take the pressure down. Stopping, resting, reflecting, checking your self-talk, slowing your breathing. Whatever helps you press pause on your busy life. The A is for act. These are the actions that help you function well. They might be physical activity, could be nutritious food, making progress towards a goal, gaining a feeling of achievement, actions that help you feel useful. The C is for connect. These are the actions that help us feel safe, feel grounded and valued. Not just connection to other people, but also to our community, to nature, culture, and spiritually. And the E is for enjoy. These are the actions that bring you joy. It might be a hobby, could be doing something creative, could be learning something new, or even volunteering. And they'll be different for different people. So let me tell you just a little bit about my pace. So sometimes if things get a little tough and I need to think about self-care and think about, looking after myself and taking some time, my pace is I will pause and I'll head down to Bronte Beach in Sydney because I live close by to there. And that is my, what I would call happy place, where I go to rest and reflect and to pause. When I'm down there, if I like to act, I'll swim. And swimming is something that I really enjoy. So it's a physical activity for me, and I love the cold water and I love the act of swimming. So that's my act. The C for connect is often I'll be there in the morning and I'll see the same people over and over again who enjoy getting down to the beach early in the morning. So I'll often connect with them, even if it's just for a simple hello or just a general greeting. Or sometimes it might be to discuss how cold the water is today. So there's a nice connection can be there. And the E is for enjoy. I absolutely love my time at the beach. And again, Bronte is my happy place. So I really enjoy that. And I enjoy the act of swimming and connecting with other people. And then I'll often sit and I'll just reflect on what's been happening and what I'm thinking at the time. So that's my pace. So perhaps write that down and then start to think about what your pace will be. Because each of us is individual, and find the actions that work for you and then set your own pace. It's really quite powerful. Next slide, please. Practicing gratitude. This is another one that I absolutely love. Research has shown that consistently practicing gratitude can reduce feelings of stress and anxiety, with a focus on consistently. In fact, studies have found that a single act of thoughtful gratitude produces an immediate 10% increase in happiness and a 35% reduction in depressive symptoms. These effects disappear within 3 to 6 months, which reminds us to practice gratitude over and over. Practicing gratitude is also a great protective factor. A protective factor is something that decreases the chance of a person being adversely affected by a circumstance or disorder. This protection can help us in a variety of circumstances, including mental health challenges like depression and anxiety. You can begin to practice gratitude by thinking of what you're thankful for. It could be family and friends, your home, or just a beautiful sunny day. Rather than being consumed by what is going wrong, writing these thoughts down or saying them out loud can even help you stay positive during difficult times. Another important aspect of practicing gratitude is celebrating the small victories. Sometimes we get caught up in celebrating large accomplishments, a new job, getting married, buying a new house. And while these things are certainly monumental and should be celebrated, it is equally important to celebrate the small moments of life. But more often, our daily lives are full of distractions and stress, and we let our small achievements go unnoticed. Think about the past few days. What have you accomplished that went unnoticed? Did you cook a delicious meal, start a new book, or chat with a loved one? Take a moment now to celebrate that, to express gratitude. Make a note of these things that you are grateful for over the past week. I actually practice gratitude daily. It makes a profound impact to my mood and to my attitude. And sometimes I'll write it down, but in a lot of cases, I'll say it out loud because for me, I like to hear it as well as think it. And when I was talking about pace before and Bronte Beach, that's somewhere where I will also practice gratitude. If I've had a swim and there's no one around, I'll sit and look at the ocean and I'll say out loud what I'm grateful for. And sometimes it might be simply for being in the water and having a swim today. So find what you're grateful for each and every day. Next slide, please. Sometimes self-care alone is not enough, and we need to reach out for extra support. If you've been feeling stressed for some time and it's starting to affect your mental health, think seriously about reaching out. If you're constantly overwhelmed, on edge, or irritable, you may be flat, low in mood, not enjoying things anymore, think seriously about reaching out. We all have bad days, but if you're feeling stuck in those feelings and can't shake them like usual, it might be time to ask for support. You can start by talking to someone you trust, like a family member or a friend, or you could actually reach out to the support service like Beyond Blue. They have a call center that is manned 24/7 by clinical staff. There's always somebody to talk to. There are a lot of options available and lots shown on this slide. You actually only have to pick one. Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, let's talk about New Access for Small Business Owners, NASBO. This is a unique program that has been designed specifically for small business owners. It's an amazingly good program. Here are some of the key highlights. It's a free mental health coaching program. It offers up to 8 30-minute sessions held weekly. It is delivered by coaches with a background in small business, and no doctor's referral is required. And it's for small business owners with less than 20 staff, or if you're a sole trader. We're receiving consistent data showing high levels of sustained recovery of around 70%. That means 7 out of 10 participants go through a clinical recovery threshold. That's a great result. I would like to add here that approximately 85% of small business owners who take part in the program meet clinical indicators for stress, anxiety, or depression. But what that does mean is that 15% do not and may not be taking part in the program to stay well rather than get well. That's a really important thing. 15% of the people entering the program may be there to stay well rather than get well. We think that is great, as we are big believers in early intervention at Beyond Blue and getting help as early as possible. So when you consider this, it really means that NASBO is a support program that could be recommended to any small business owner, not only those who are struggling. Please remember that, because that's a really important point. That's why NASBO is so successful, because it targets issues early enough to ensure that recovery is more likely and it can happen more quickly. It's a really amazing program. However, next slide, please. However, rather than hear from me about NASBO, I would love for you to hear from someone who took part in the program who can share their journey with you. I would now like to introduce David.
Hello,
Hi, David.
everyone.
Hi, David. We're so grateful that you are here with us today. And I would love to ask you some questions about the NASBO program.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, let's go. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and why you reached out to take part in the NASBO program? Thanks.
Well, as you mentioned, my name is David. So I'm a registered tax agent and a small business owner. Now, I've worked in the tax industry for several years now, across firms of various sizes, and it's been a rewarding journey so far. Now, I first came across the NASBO program while I was researching grants and support available to small businesses through the New South Wales government. Now, at the time, I was starting my own business, and I was feeling the weight of financial pressures, client demands, ATO deadlines, and the general cost of living in Sydney. So I bookmarked this program to revisit at a later time. Now, early in the year, my wife and I faced a series of serious family challenges, including a diagnosis of cancer in the family, which deeply affected us. And that's when I decided it was the right time for me to have a look at the NASBO program and give it a go, just to help me manage the stress I was experiencing. Plus, I thought, well, it's free, and it's an available resource, so why not?
Great. That's really powerful, David. So what was it like? And what was it like when you attended the session? So can you give us a little bit more information about the program?
Yeah, for sure. So the sessions were incredibly practical. My mental health coach, Chrissy, was very respectful of my values and my beliefs, and she helped me to pinpoint the core issue I was experiencing. And I'm a goal-orientated person in general, so I appreciated that not only did I have the space to talk freely, but I also had the support of a professional who could help me strategize practical implementation. And together we were able to develop goals and tools to address them. Now, the sessions were only 30 minutes, weren't time consuming. I did it once a week via video conference. It was simple, accessible, and easy to fit into my schedule.
That's awesome. I just wrote a note. What I love, one of the things I loved is it's a space to talk freely.
Mm,
I think that sounds very important when times are really stressful.
yeah, definitely.
So, what did you learn and how did it help?
Well, during my initial session with Chrissy, my mental health coach, we developed a problem statement and set up subsequent goals. And I also received this booklet for excessive worry and just to help guide our sessions. And for example, on page 12, let me just get it up. I had this section about problem solving for practical worry. So basically, what you do, you write down your problem, and there's space to break it into smaller steps, and then you would tackle this problem, and then we would eventually review it and see how we did. Now, Chrissy helped me to identify that I was caught in a negative recurring loop. It typically began when a physical sensation or emotional trigger was reacted, and that would lead to a negative thought. And then those thoughts would influence my behavior, reinforcing the cycle and making it harder to break. So, recognizing this pattern was a turning point for me. It helped me to understand that the loop wasn't just mental, it was also tied to a physical and emotional triggers or clues. So, with that awareness, we're able to interrupt that cycle by implementing strategies before spiraling. For example, I'll give you an example. So, I noticed that sitting in my home office chair in the evening often led me to a negative mind space or headspace where I get stuck in the thinking of the what ifs in life. What if I lose this client if I don't meet their client demands? And this started to affect my mood. But once I became aware of this pattern, we were able to create a simple strategy. So whenever I found myself overthinking in that chair, maybe at the financial burdens of running a business or client demands, I'd immediately switch to a positive activity. And that could have been, for me, it was watching a light-hearted show like Brooklyn Nine-Nine or replaying the latest AFL game of the Fremantle Dockers. But obviously, when they lose, still heartbreak, but that's okay. Or even listening to an upbeat playlist.
Wow. That's some really powerful insights, and thank you for sharing that. Again, I wrote down, how wonderful to have someone guide you through identifying your problem, and then not only identify, but how to tackle and solve it, and then how to use things like watching the footy or listening to, a podcast or watching your favorite TV show to help with that. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing. So, what's like for you now?
Well, life stresses haven't decreased, but my ability to handle them has increased. So challenges in business, personal life still arise, but now I have some additional tools to help me navigate them. I'm better at catching myself when I start to slip into negative thought patterns. And since starting this program, well, my overall sense of joy has increased and I feel less overwhelmed.
Wow, that's a really great outcome. And what I love about what you've said is stresses haven't decreased, and um, I think that's a really important thing to acknowledge that actually they don't in our lives.
Mm,
But what you've got now is tools to help you navigate, and I love that fact that you feel joy. That's really good.
yeah.
So, have you changed anything or implemented anything because of doing the program?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, these are practical tools I learned through the New Access for Small Business Owner program. Simple but powerful exercises that help me to manage stress and build emotional resilience. So, I'll give you a few examples of the exercise I run through when I feel that myself I'm becoming more overwhelmed. So, we have this thing called a worry awareness diary. So, basically, here I'll write down my concerns that I have. And in this column here, we'll distinguish whether it's an actual real event or a hypothetical event. Something else that I try to do is when something's bothering me, maybe it's a client or something personally, I mentally put a pin in it with the thought, and then I'll reschedule the time to revisit it later. So rather than letting it derail my focus in that moment. And I've also started to document uncertainties in life. So in the activity section here, and deliberately exposing myself to it so I can build a greater tolerance for uncertainty. So in this section, we'll rate how I feel before I expose myself. Maybe it's 80%. And then after I expose myself, how do I feel after? Maybe the uncertainty wasn't as bad.
That's great. I love that, a worry diary. I spend a lot of time worrying, and I think the ability to write it down and address it is great. And what I love hearing is out of this program is that you've come away with some amazing tools to help you cope. And that's, stresses don't go away, but having tools to help cope is really powerful.
Yeah, exactly.
What would you say to another small business owner listening today who might be struggling?
Well, you don't have to wait until the crisis happens to get help. It's better to be proactive than reactive. As an industry, unfortunately, we are reactive at times. So it's better to be proactive as accountants. And this program is designed for you. It's completely free. There's no downside in giving it a try. Now, if you're feeling overwhelmed or just need a little bit more guidance, I strongly recommend you taking a part in it. It could make a real difference in your life. You have nothing to lose, but everything to gain.
Wow, that's really good. Don't wait and be proactive. And as I mentioned before, 15% of the people on the program are there to take care of themselves, not because they're in crisis. So don't wait. I love that message. David, I can't thank you enough. I've been fortunate enough to be involved in the program over a number of years with working with Beyond Blue and heard from different people, but this is probably the most powerful message I've heard from a participant. So I can't thank you enough for coming along. And it takes a lot of courage to open up and share your story. So I think you should be highly commended for that. And I can't thank you enough. And I'm seeing all these claps and love hearts going up. So I'm sure the audience are feeling exactly the same. So thank you so much, David.
Thank you, Tim, and all the audience as well.
Right. All right. Next slide, please. We're down towards the end and we're nearly ready for questions. So how to inquire to NASBO? You've heard such a powerful story from David. And there are many participants like him who have gained so much from the program. So please keep this program in mind for yourself or even someone that you know who may be struggling. It's really important. You never know who may really be needing to hear about this, and help is available and you're not alone. So what I'll ask you to do now is just take a screenshot of that slide or take a photo of it and keep it in your contact details about the program. Keep it on your phone, whenever you might need it, or someone else. Or some of you might think, I'm going to apply straight after this talk today. Really powerful. Thank you. Next slide. And I think we're now at the Q&A. So thank you for taking time to listen and to learn about important strategies and activities that you can action each and every day for your mental health and your wellness. Question time.
Thank you so much for that presentation, Tim and David. I think everyone would have got a lot out of that. I know I got some great tips for myself. So I hope everyone's found that useful. So we've had a few questions come through. So to start, I have a question that came through from Jenny. Tim, can you please repeat the needs for physical activity like eating well and social connection again, please?
Okay, yes, let me go back to my notes. So the very important lifestyle activities. Is that correct? Physical
Yes.
exercise, eating well, getting enough sleep, and social connection. They are the pillars of your mental health. And I can tell you that for me personally, when I was struggling with my anxiety, one of the very first things my GP told me was get back to your physical exercise. It's really important. But all of those four things are very, very important. And if you do a little bit every day, it goes a long way. Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you. Another question that's come through is I struggle finding the willpower and energy to implement these things, even though they are relatively simple. Do you have any tips?
Ooh, um, that's a great question because it's a real question.
Yes.
And when we're, so I can speak for myself, when I'm stressed or anxious, when there's too much on, it feels just about insurmountable to go and do the things that, you know, take care of my for self-care. So the things I've talked about then, the pace, practicing gratitude. However, we all have a choice, and I believe that if you do a little bit of it every day, that when those stresses rise and you really are thinking, I don't know how to, I think you'll be a little better off. And I know for me personally that I am. That if I'm practicing these every day, helps build my resilience so that when the days are really tough, I can still manage. So I would encourage you. And again, it's the simplest of things. So sometimes sitting in your favorite chair in the house might be your happy place. And you heard David talk a bit about the Dockers. Well, I would probably watch the Swans, but anyway. Um, or what was the TV show?
Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Find something like that that just puts a smile on your face,
Mm.
and just try that, or even put some nice music on. Sometimes those sort of things will start to activate a feeling of calmness. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Now, Dawn has asked if NASBO have posters that we can put up in the workplace for our employees.
Okay, so one thing to remember about NASBO program, it is for the business owner only. It's not for their staff or anybody else. It's for the business owner. So you must be a sole trader or a business owner, and it is a program just for you. So does that answer the question, do you think? Because
Yes, thank
yeah,
you.
okay. Mhm.
We'll move on to the next question that came through is how do you handle negative thoughts or self-criticism?
Wow, it's not easy. It's actually not easy. David probably touched on a couple of those, you know, problem-solving things. Again, how I personally deal with it is I need to do some self-care. So I need to go down to Bronte Beach. I need to go for a swim or walk around the park or listen to nice music or go and do something else to help try and dissipate those thoughts. The thoughts never go away. And for me, what I often have to do is acknowledge them and then start to think about something else. So it's not easy, but I try and do a lot of the things that we talked about today to help put me in a more positive frame of mind. And I can tell you now that practicing gratitude is a really powerful thing. And that often helps me move from a period of negative thinking into something more positive. Thanks.
So the next one that's come through is how can workplaces support mental health?
There's lots of ways. We think there's a number of things. Are making them aware of programs that are available. So one of the slides we put up was about where support's available. Beyond Blue's a great place to start. For example, I talked about the 24/7 helpline manned by clinical staff, but they also have other things you can communicate through online chats or forums. So I think sometimes it's simply about providing where they can go to for support, which I think is a really powerful thing. So it's Beyond Blue, or again on the slides, it was some of the other things that they can do, because that often gives people an opportunity to know where to go. Because I think sometimes for us, it's not knowing where to go to ask for help that's the challenging part.
Now, these days, it's hard as we can log right back on when we get home. Clients feel they can email all night and weekend. Are there any strategies you can suggest to manage this?
Ooh. Again, I can only talk about myself, and I would probably put it around boundaries and what I would call um, terms of engagement. So what are the boundaries that you have in your business? For me personally, I have certain boundaries around work, even personal and friends, and you have to be clear about those boundaries, and you have to talk to other people with them. When I had my business, I was very clear to my clients about the boundaries of when we would communicate with them and when I could or when my staff could. And we were very clear and upfront about that, because I didn't believe it was of value to me or to my staff or even the client to be available all the time. Again, it's a very personal thing, and I can't speak for everybody's business or everybody individually. But setting those boundaries is really important. And one of the things that I love sharing with people is no is a complete sentence. And sometimes we just have to say no. And there was a great podcast done by the CEO of Beyond Blue, and one of the things she talks about is she has a KPI of saying no 3 times a week. Again, it's all about individual people, but boundaries are really important. Being clear about those boundaries, and then I love that. No is a complete sentence, and sometimes we just need to say no. Thanks.
I think that's some really good advice. Now, a lot of people have commented about not feeling supported in their interactions with government and not having any power to change that. Do you happen to have any suggestions on how to handle these feelings?
Oh, well, a couple of things. One is that there are things that are out of our control that we cannot change. And I think that doesn't make those things right or wrong. It's just that there are certain things. And I think sometimes we have to be very mindful in our self-care that we just can't change everything. And sometimes things will be as they are. And what we need to do is we need to understand how we can, as an individual, how we react to them and how we deal with them. And we were just talking earlier, there is a really good book that I've just started reading by an American author, Mel Robbins, called Let Them. It's the let them theory. So it's all about letting other people deal with their own behavior in their own way, and then you deal with yours, because we can't change everything. And I get as frustrated and as annoyed and, growl at the television when the news is on and all sorts of stuff. But I can't change everything. So I have to learn how to adapt and deal with it comfortably in my life. So that book I've just started reading, it's just a personal thing, but it's called The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. It's quite powerful.
I think we'll all have to go out and grab that one. Now, we all feel stressed at times. So, how do you know when it's time to seek help?
That's a great question. Think about the mental health continuum. Remember when we had that up before? What I really love about the mental health continuum is two things. One is that our mental health is not a static state. It took me a long time to understand that. I used to think I'm mentally well or I'm mentally not well. I didn't realize that there was kind of this in-between bit, and we can move around and we can comfortably move around on that scale, because we do have times when we feel good and we feel great, and there are other times where we're just really off the pace for a day or two. So I think it's kind of important to understand that. But then thing about it is, if we're moving around that continuum and we're starting to head to the at-risk or struggling, and it's going on for greater than 2 weeks, I think then we need to start to think about, is there something going on for me that I should perhaps address? And I've often said to people, sometimes you can just go to your GP and have a mental health check in, and that can be quite a powerful thing to do. Or you might want to jump on the NASBO program. Does that answer that question? If not, I can.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you for that. Yeah, I think that's some good advice. So, David, have you got any stories of stress and recovery from when you were running your accounting practice?
Well, actually, one stress, I'll highlight the TPB here, was even just attaching my tax agent number to my ABN at the time. Now, I think they were having some changes in the background, and that was quite stressful because I wanted to start my business at a certain time, and I had clients waiting for me. So that's just one example of where stress can come from work. Some things are out of your control, and that can impact how you feel. So having these little techniques that I learned in the NASBO program really helped me just to put that aside, and things usually worked out in the end. Does that answer the question?
So we're coming to the end of the session now. So I might ask you each this last question. I'll start with you, David, then I'll ask Tim. But if you could provide one key takeaway you would like everyone to keep in mind from today.
I think it's so important to be proactive than reactive with your mental health. Even if you do not feel like you're really struggling in life yet, why not build up those techniques so when that time comes, you're ready to go?
Excellent. Tim?
That's great advice. My my takeout from today would be, give each of the 5 strategies a go each week for the coming 4 weeks. Because I believe you must try them continually for a period of time for them to have the best impact. Jot down how you're feeling at the start, and then in 4 weeks, reflect on how you're feeling now. So give those 5 strategies a go, but for a period of 4 weeks. Thanks.
Thank you for that. So if you'd like more information and to keep up to date, visit our website at tpb.gov.au. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook. We also have a newsletter that goes out each month called TPB e-News, which you can subscribe to at tpb.gov.au/newsroom. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel to receive notifications when we post new videos. We record all our webinars and have a comprehensive library of webinars available for you to view at your leisure. You can still claim CPE for viewing these videos. Don't forget, you can count today's webinar towards your CPE, and you can claim 1 hour for attending. Before we finish up, I'll be launching an exit survey. We'd appreciate it if you can take the time to complete the exit survey. It only takes a moment, and your feedback will help us to improve our webinars and lets us know the topics that are of interest to you. The survey will open up in your browser once you leave the webinar. A big thank you goes to Tim and David for sharing your insights today and for answering our questions. It's been great having you join us today. Once again, thank you for joining us today, and we hope to connect with you again soon.
Thanks very much.